I think I speak for all three of us when I say that Quebec is possibly the best, but certainly one of the best snowmobiling destinations in North America for sure, but maybe even in the entire world.
When you make a bold statement like that, you got to bring some perspective to have legitimacy, because that's a strong statement. But put this in context, 33,000 kilometers, that is 20,000 US miles of groomed, marked snowmobile trails. And they go through some of the most staggeringly beautiful and diverse terrain anywhere in North America.
And when it comes to SnowTrax, keep this in mind. Since 2006, we have visited every single region in Quebec, not once, multiple times. And if you go back even further, Mark, with SuperTrax, they've been going there since the mid-'80s. We have so much experience in Quebec.
The first area of Quebec I think I want to cover is what they refer to as Quebec by the Sea, and it encompasses Côte-Nord, Gaspésie, and Bay-Saint-Laurent.
This area of Quebec is very easterly, and one of the unique things about it is the fact that you get a lot of windy trails, but more importantly, high elevation changes. And some of the views out over the ocean are absolutely incredible. Another thing that's pretty unique about this area is that it's serviced by a lot of smaller towns, not bigger cities. And you're gonna find bigger cities in other areas of Quebec, but out here, it's smaller towns. It's actually very welcoming, very inviting. It's a unique area.
And with it being serviced by smaller towns as opposed to larger cities, you get a wide variation of accommodation and places to eat. But as it being Quebec, one thing we have learned is that no matter where you are, those two things are always excellent. A couple of the interesting things you can do while you're in this area of Quebec is definitely check out the St. Lawrence overlooks. There's so many places, as you mentioned earlier, along the trail where you can see the St. Lawrence, and it's beautiful from high elevations. But also, this area has something that almost no other area does. It's really cool, and that is a ferry that you can actually load your sleds on and cross the St. Lawrence. It's quite a long ferry ride, and honestly, when I did it, it was one of the coolest things of the trip for sure. Another really cool thing to do while you're in this area is visit one of North America's largest snowmobile bridges. It's called the Passerelle de la Rivière Manicouagan, and it is absolutely impressive. You have to go see it. You won't believe it. It's such an exciting thing to check out. But there's more to this area than just the Bay-Saint-Laurent and Côte-Nord areas. You've got some experience somewhere else, don't you, AJ?
Absolutely, and that area is Gaspésie. Gaspésie is really well known for getting huge snow. They've got the Chic-Choc Mountains, and then they also have out on kind of the peninsula, they've got Pierce Rock, which is pretty much a Canadian landmark.
It's a tourist destination for sure.
Absolutely,
yeah.
In summer or winter, it's beautiful to go here. It's a really popular area because it gets so much snow. This is a place to go if you want to ride in huge snow, and the trails are still groomed awesome. I mean, most places that get big snow like this, they don't groom as often as they should. Quebec and Gaspé, not one of those places. They groom all the time.
And you can pretty much count on the snow there. Like it's almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but it's almost guaranteed. Yeah. The next area of the province I want to talk about encompasses three separate regions: Quebec, Charlevoix, and Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. And I have spent actually quite a lot of time in these three regions over the years. I think I've been there 2 or 3 times at least.
You got to understand that where this is located, this region is just perfect for US snowmobilers to get to the trails. You don't have to drive very far to be in fantastic riding, and that's a big asset for this area, is that proximity to the US.
Mm-hmm. And it's also very centrally located for Ontario riders to get into this area and experience all that Quebec has to offer. And there's some really cool stuff here because, like some other areas in Quebec where it's all smaller towns, this has both city and small towns. So you can get small little boutique hotels, or you can get big city brand name stuff. It depends on what you want and where you're riding.
And the main city in this area is Quebec City. Quebec City's awesome. There's so much history there. The trails here are, I would call them diverse. Much like the previous one we talked about, there's lots of elevation changes. They get traditionally tons of snow, so you can usually count on it and plan your trips around the snow. Being close to Quebec City, you're not just like, ride your sled at the hotel, ride your sled at the hotel. You can take a day in between your rides and go do cool stuff and go see cool things. And it really has a lot of diversity in trails, but also in experiences.
Yeah, bring the family, bring the kids. This one is probably the most historical snowmobiling center in all of Canada.
The next two regions I want to talk about are actually a little further south in the province of Quebec, still along the US border and very close to Ontario, and that's Centre du Québec and Chaudière-Appalaches.
And this region, correct me if I'm wrong, is known for having multiple loops that you can do, but it's not like multiple loops where you have to move each day. You can stay in one central hotel region and then go out and just keep looping back, but you cover not the same trail. You keep.
When I was there,
isn't
that's
that
exactly what we did. We stayed at one place, and we did a different loop trail each day, and each one was really different from the others. It's not like you get bored, like, oh, this is the same loop I did yesterday, just different trail. They're all different. So it's just a really cool place to ride. And it's actually a really great place to ride with your family, because loop trails are usually easier for a kid for a one-day loop when you're not having to, saddlebag or whatever. So it's a really great place to bring kids. And there's actually some cool things to do in the area to check out.
That's right. There's an observation tower that you went to in one of the episodes, right?
Yep. It's on Mount St. Magloire, and it's absolutely an awesome spot. The trees get covered in snow, and it's just amazing. It's windy, so that when the snow hits the trees, it sticks to them.
Very picturesque.
And it's way up high. You can see other regions of Quebec from that spot, so it's definitely worth going there. And I think one of the things that really stands out in this region is that it's great for, I mentioned kids, but it's also great for beginner riders. The signage is amazing, so you always have top confidence wherever you go that you're going to be able to get back. And the trails give you a wide range of technicality. So if you're a beginner and you just want to take an easy trail, you can do that. If you're a more advanced rider and you want a little bit more challenge, you can do that too. So it's really a great area in terms of diversity for the people who will enjoy that area.
A little bit of everything for everybody.
Exactly.
The next two regions of Quebec I want to talk about is my turf, Outaouais and the Laurentians, and here's why. It's the very first place I ever went to Quebec to go snowmobiling in 1980. And it was...
Did you miss my birth for that?
And this place is iconic, literally, because of the kind of stuff you can see here and do here, and the level of development of the trails is really quite staggering. I mean, you've got a great mixture of everything, and here's something that we can talk about that we haven't so far. There's safe, marked, staked, signed lake running as part of the package there. The accommodation too is, because it is so old and it's been around for so long, it's really well developed. The tourism operators, they know how to treat people. I mean, they know what you're looking for. When you call to check on what's going on, you get honest reports on the trails, honest reports on the snow conditions. It's a fantastic place, and quite frankly, it's near and dear to my heart, because that was the first time that I got a chance to ride Quebec, and it was awesome.
And there's one area particular in this region that I think might be one of the most popular locales in all of Quebec, Devil's Mountain, correct?
The Devil's Mountain experience, like, it's on your bucket list. It's got to be. You have to go and see this place. It's really cool. There's a place to eat up there and get warmed up, but the view is staggering. I mean, we've talked about some mountain views. This is the granddaddy of all places. And just to prove the point, riding up there is an experience in itself. It's beautifully groomed, but I'm telling you, you're climbing the whole way up.
There's also another spot in that area that's new. You were there a long time ago. This one's much newer, and it's actually the longest snowmobile bridge in the world.
Cool.
Is in that area, which is pretty neat. Quebec seems to have a lot of long bridges. That's something they're, I guess, famous for, but this one is the most impressive. So when you're there, you got to do Devil's Mountain, and you got to go do this new bridge that at this point I think remains unnamed.
Great area to visit.
So the next two regions I think we need to talk about are actually regions that you and I both visited separately, but they are very recent. In fact, Iles-Baie-James was the last place I went in Quebec. We went to the town of Chibougamau. I went with my friend Stefan, and it is one of the most spectacular places to ride I've ever been. The trails are amazing, but there's like no traffic. So you can ride all day and not pretty much see anybody. And the other thing that they are most famous for, probably most famous for, is the amount of snowfall they get and how late and early their season is. We were riding like well past anywhere else in Ontario and Quebec had snow. We went up there and they had feet of snow. We were getting stuck, there was so much snow.
Awesome, and it's not just a small amount of trails. There's over 3,700 kilometers of trails in this area, which is pretty impressive. And like you said, they're flat, they're fast, they're smooth, and they have impressive sight lines. So this is a place that you can go and really have fun.
I actually think that Iles-Baie-James might be my favorite place to ride in Quebec. Now, I don't want to pick favorites, but maybe it's just because it was the last
Well,
one.
Dad might have something to say about this too, because he was there just last year.
We had a completely different experience in Abitibi-Temiskaming. If you go here, go hungry, because The restaurants and the places to eat. I took my wife on this tour, their mom. It was just awesome. The food, I mean, you're talking 5-star downtown big city restaurants located out where you pull up to the door on your snowmobile and everything's cool with that. It's a very, very well-developed tourism area. It has great tourism products. And so you get involved in that as a snowmobiler. You're getting the deluxe treatment. The trails are spectacular. There's some great scenery there. But the thing that kind of impressed us the most about the riding was open field and meadows, like great big expanses where you're just flying down the trail and you go down into a big G out and back up the other side, and you can stop and look behind you and you can see for like 1.5 miles where the guys you're riding with are. It's like this expansive, it's almost an emotional experience when you do it.
Well, and there's some pretty unique things to do here. I mean, you guys did a chocolate factory, you did a cheese factory,
the cheese
all
shop.
kinds of stuff. So family, very welcomed, and you're gonna get some really unique experiences considering you're on a snowmobile.
That's wicked good.
The final area of Quebec I want to talk about is called Authentic Quebec. It's what they go by, and the 2 regions it covers are Lanaudier and Mauricie, and I have been to both multiple times. I know you were there once.
Me too.
And you've been there. It's one of the sort of oldest, most historical snowmobiling areas probably in North America, I would say, but it's such a cool spot. The trails there are unreal. That's the word I would use, unreal. You drive from valleys to mountains. The elevation changes are crazy. There's lakes, there's rivers. You can do anything there. The trails cover the entire spectrum of snowmobiling. There's a huge variety of places to stay and types of places to stay. If you want like a 5-star lodge, you can do that. If you want a more basic accommodation, you can do that. And along with that comes obviously a wide variety of places to eat.
Something else that's really unique about this area, and actually it's very unique to, you know, all of snowmobiling, is that you can fly into either Montreal or Quebec City and go right over to a rental location
Within a
that's
few hours,
very
you'll be
close.
there.
Yep, you'll be there very soon. You can jump on a high-performance sled. They have so many rentals in this area, and then go out and ride some of the best trails in all of the world. They will take care of you. It's all available. Just fly in.
There's a couple other things you have to do while you're there, and the one is to go ride across the dam at Lac Thoreau. It's kind of a unique experience. It's something that's worth noting and worth going to. And then also, Hotel Sakakomi was where I stayed when I was there, and they have this thing called a Nordic spa. I think it's more common in Quebec than it is in Ontario, but if you want to experience what being cold is all about, go to the Nordic spa. But just such a wide variety of stuff to do there. My experiences there, I think I've maybe been 3 times, have all been absolutely top-notch, some of my favorites. Of the 3 of us, I've actually been to Quebec more than anybody else, and this really is one of the world's must-ride destinations. Things that stand out for me are, of course, you know, the trails and the food and the accommodation, but also the people there are actually very accommodating, and a lot of people worry about the language gap. There isn't a language problem there, but I just love this spot.
Especially to those of you who are in the eastern United States and Ontario, don't hesitate to go. It's so close, and there is really no language barrier. They accept everybody, and your information will get across.
So when you go on a snowmobile tour or a vacation or a trip, whatever you call it, there's a couple things you want. You want great trails, you want great accommodation, you want great on-trail services and food. Let me tell you something, it's covered in Quebec.
So I think after all of this, and after all of this looking back, I think we can all agree that Quebec absolutely has to be at the top of your bucket list for not just places to ride in North America, but in the entire world.
Yep, and don't you hesitate to say, Bonjour, Quebec.